Awesome. All right, so I've been getting a few comments on my tie tonight. I don't know if you can see it from here, but it's got a bunch of sharks on it. And I'm famously terrified of sharks. So everybody's like, how can you wear a tie with sharks on it? And I thought I'd take a chance tonight because, like the song says, every girl's crazy about a shark-dressed man. And that's just a taste of what I have in store for you with these intros. All right, so just the other day, our first reader was showing off a new pair of pants. He was really proud of them. They were these dark green pants with a sort of rope-like texture, and he said he got them custom-made from Ireland. And I asked him, what's this ropey-looking material called? And he said, oh, this is Cord O'Roy. Hey. Thank you. Please welcome Roy Johnson.
All right, this is my first reading, so we'll see how this goes. This is called... Okay, this is called Zeus and the Cruiser Missile. There are any number of things that are outside of one's control in life. Zeus could see at least two from the kitchen of their one-bedroom apartment at the extended stay motel. Beauty, get that thing out of your ear, he said. 7-year-old Minerva started with guilt. She dropped a pink crochet hook. Her brother, Apollo, who was 3 years old, sat next to her on the twin bed in the front room watching cartoons on television and scratching around in his diaper with another crochet hook. He was absently bringing it to his mouth when Zeus wagged a wooden spoon covered in macaroni and pasta sauce. Beast, oh, bud, don't put that thing in your mouth. Zeus was already regretting this particular half-assed and underthought diversionary expenditure. On their way home from the grocery store that afternoon, the golden-haired Apollo had an epiphany, or rather, he saw one. But anyway, he stood as one transfixed and quivering like a spike in the earth. Then he aped a shuffling shoe drag that might have been a dance step on the snow-covered sidewalk, followed by the bum's rush at the craft store. Dad, look, it's Super Steven. With manic jerks, he was already halfway through the store's dingy door. Can we get him? Can we? Chimed Minerva. The bell in the corner of the door was jangling like a prison alarm. Zeus pulled the door the rest of the way open. Apollo scattered for the display. Minerva followed. She tugged thoughtfully at her pigtails. Her gray eyes are as wide and pathetically hopeful as empty dinner plates. A premonition of doom ticked in the face of Zeus, and he swooned in the spirit as he passed through the door. Super Steven, $40. Super Steven, as mongrel a bit of gray-white fur as anyone could hope for, a 3-foot plush animal with 6-inch blue googly eyes. The stupid red tongue that stuck out of the side of the dog's mouth had been the subject of trademark disputes. He'd been created by a super slick preacher couple, the offensively logical conclusion of a prosperity gospel that had gone all pantheism au naturel with the decay of the millennium. Here's how that happened. Retrofitting an old megachurch that was lying around just east of Houston, they preached the organic gospel of real wood toys to a skeptical market. Although at first they only hawked sensibly colored arks and animals, this soon evolved into a series of pastorals and shepherds. These were followed by ewe lambs and by porcelain statuary of the infant Samuel prophesying before Israel, and by so on and etc. and ad nauseum. A series of low-profit intern scandals gave accidental birth to Super Steven, who turned out to be the final iteration and the Weltanschauung of the super couple and was immediately followed by a divorce. Despite his truly awful name, children everywhere seemed to love him. The proud and newly single born-again preacher lady who owned this bastard mutt, body and soul, said his cheery grin reminded her of her cheating POS husband or her father. Either way, Super Steven was $40. Zeus had bought them each a crochet hook and a ball of yarn and said, "We'll YouTube how to do this when we get home." Minerva began doing a credible interpretation of a sprawling sack of potatoes. I hate you, Dad. What? No, it'll be fine. Your grandma, she used to crochet. She showed me how. I think I remember. Steven! Steven! Shrieked Apollo, his blue eyes wet with tears. It'll be fun. You'll love these. I know it. Oh, God, Dad, sobbed the pigtail potato sack. You are so old. Yeah, you're old. When they got back to the motel and the groceries were put away in and on top of the little white refrigerator, Zeus tried to show them how to make the loops and how to lock them together. But this was an exercise in futility that ended in the television getting turned on to a rerun of Super Steven. The godlings, disappointed and unappeased, savaged the apartment with their despised hooks, while the poor father of all retired behind the half wall separating the front room from the kitchenette, where we found him in the beginning, the sole author, the prime mover, covered in macaroni, cheese, and pasta sauce. It was unsurprising then that when dinner was coming to a boil and Zeus, grating a giant orange brick of cheddar cheese, saw that there was a furtive movement out of the corner of his eye. It was one of those suspiciously harbingerous movements, the kind your peripheral vision latches onto and can't let go of. Zeus looked up. With an almost metaphysical certainty he could feel behind his pulsing eyeballs, he realized that something was not right in his little world. The yarn balls had vanished. Rather, they had not vanished. They had simply altered their mode of being, having been operated on and dissected by two godlings and then festooned like the rainbow intestines of an entire alien species all around the front room. There was yarn everywhere. On the rock mantel that was the bookshelf, on the ersatz chiffonier, and between the several lamps where rope bridges dangled precariously over the void space of the front room. Plastic dinosaurs in blue fur coats, an entire regiment of colorful ponies had been first mummified and then ruthlessly strung up like so many recalcitrant Ithacan maids. Oh, for the love of please, beauty, could you at least, yes, take those down off the television. Beast, how do you even, never mind. The dinosaurs look much prettier with their fur coats. No extinction level events for them. Beauty, the ponies, just a bit creepy. Can we please put them down? All right, can we lower them briefly to the ground? Yes, you can pray for their souls. Now, let's eat. Apple juice boxes, macaroni swimming in pasta sauce, grated cheddar cheese, cool cucumbers, short celery stalks sliced in halves. Apollo wagged the celery at his father from his perch on the couch bed. Don't like this. What? Why? It's green. Will you try it? You might. Green? Zeus collected the offending vegetable. He tried slipping peas into the kid's spaghetti when he was younger, but the young god's taste buds were keen, and he'd sorted them on his tongue and spit them out with a look of triumphant disgust. There had been a time when Zeus could throw kale and spinach leaves with milk and Ovaltine into the blender and serve Apollo a brownish gray blue shake full of whatever it was that was good for children that was in kale and spinach, iron, fiber, maybe character. But then Zeus had stupidly mentioned this victory to their mother at the gas station drop-off one night, who hated his victories of any sort and who told them what was in it, and that had been that. No more shakes for Apollo, not even all chocolate ones. He would stick his little freckled nose in the air, push his chair back, fall on the floor, and yell, "No green!" So the celery halves went back into a plastic baggie, and then into the crisper in the refrigerator. Zeus sighed. He scratched his beard with one hand. He idly examined his tattooed arm in the reflection of the spatula. It would be bedtime soon enough. Now, when children, and especially godlings, are fed and thoroughly inundated with cartoons, and especially cartoons of the caliber of the frantically helpful, generically sanctimonious Super Steven, and it is approaching 6 or 7 in the evening, and the children are mostly trapped in the front room of their one-bedroom apartment for the remainder of the night, there's something that seems to go completely sideways with them. Generally, they lose their minds. Why it is that parents don't remember this is that at the time of the happening is beyond the scope of this story and possibly beyond the scope of history. But even parents like Allfather Zeus seem to enter into some sort of a spiritual malaise, a kind of brown study or a blue funk after dinner. They seem to think, foolish creatures, that they will soon be unburdened of their children by the sweet, sweet onset of slumber, and the rest of the night, say from 8 to 3 o'clock in the morning, will be filled with time they can waste properly. It is hard to understand why this dead zone in the otherwise hyper-alert senses of the parent and the otherwise highly strung and thoroughly frayed down to the last damn nerve and fiber of their being exists, but it does. Consider Zeus, for example, who at that very moment was thinking to himself, well, it's 6:30. I've got time to clean the dishes when they're done eating, and then showers, and then pajamas, and toothbrushing, stories in bed, and then, in their mind's eye, single parents are breaking free of their tether to gallop madly about the pasture with a bucket of ice cream and 10 hours of some serialized bodice ripping made for cable crime drama. Monday morning diaper blowouts are on the other side of this carefully planned and executed debauch. Red, bleary eyes that would have been open before the crack of dawn to slave over chocolate bacon pancakes are on the other side of this epic binge that happens to the eyes only after unwillingly closing during the 5th episode when some supernatural being or other is getting its guts blown out by a vaguely scientific superweapon and cheap CGI jiggery-pokery during a bar fight in a saloon on the moon. Bene, says the Vox Populi, bene. And then, what matters is on this side of and then. Such was the hoped-for pattern of behavior. Zeus, of course, being only a god, fully underestimated his children. He was reading a book on the counter with his elbows propping up his shaggy head and was entirely oblivious to the machinations of the scamps. There was a hurry and a scurry up and down the hall. He was oblivious to their chuckles and snorts. If he had looked even a bit to his left, he would have seen the last of the yarn trailing into the bedroom. He would have suspected them that they stood there, trembling with the excitement of their plot. But he was engrossed in something else, and therefore entirely deserved what happened next. Now, Apollo was something of an artist and had been hard at work his whole 3 years of his young life in the exercise of his mastery over creative destruction. Gods and dogs were terrified of him. Zeus had beat many an undignified retreat from any number of parks while being live-streamed by yodeling, bloodthirsty parents of scuffed and crying toddlers. Zeus had a drawer full of crayons whose wrappers had been meticulously denuded, wrappers he still found in the most improbable of places, like his glasses case or under the toilet seat cover. At any rate, the godling had cooked up something special tonight in that whirling brain of his. Super Stephen had been on a rescue mission. Yes, he had. The terminally lovable pup. Super Stephen had rescued a cat from a tree, and not just any cat, but the arch nemesis of the whole television series, Tom Trouble, and really the algorithms that go into choosing these names. Anyway, Super Stephen, well, he rescued him from the top of the tree where he'd got stuck because the poor snowflake cat had been mightily triggered, passing I don't know what, a leaf, and had scattered up the tree in a fine feline form and hung perched there, swaying and shivering for all the cartoon universe to see. Probably it was a season finale or something like that. Maybe it was an episode geared to hawk a new line of Super Stephen's semi-active toys, but whatever it was, it included Super Stephen firing a harpoon at the tree. How cool is that? Super Stephen rescuing his arch nemesis by shooting a goddamn missile at him and making a tow line to bend the tree down so that the whole shaken cat could saunter daintily off into the credit-riddled sunset with the hero pup. Or would have, except the rope came loose accidentally, and instead of sauntering off into the sunset, the miserable feline was thrown bodily over a couple of purple and irresolute mountains, leaving Super Stephen in sole possession of the field of friendship, to the laughing cheers of his loyal fans. Stupid cat, Apollo thought, chortling into his macaroni and cheese. And then he'd had an idea. Apollo didn't own any missiles or harpoons. Zeus had expressly forbid them in the house, and anyways they were expensive. But, thought Apollo, he did have an industrial strength rubber band. He'd swiped it out of the utility drawer when his father made him put the matches back. And, thought Apollo, he did have that handy new crochet hook. So Apollo divulged his plan in whispered outline to Minerva, and judging by the way her eyes were glowing at him under her pigtails, she approved. Probably Apollo didn't realize that Minerva, being 7 and having more or less reached the age of reason, had gleefully realized just how much trouble Apollo was going to get in. Wisdom and forethought of this rarity only comes with age. So quietly, the two underage brigands stole back and forth under the father of all's nose. They raised an effigy to Tom Trouble in the front room directly down the hall, and in front of the picture window that faced out into the parking lot, they tied a hank of yarn around Apollo's blue crochet hook. Then Minerva took the industrial-sized rubber band and stretched it between her hands, lying down on her belly in the hall. The young Apollo kneeled on her back and hooked his Super Stephen harpoon crochet rescue by golly into the nth degree device onto the rubber band. He pulled it back as far as he could, leaning back with all his weight. Minerva's hands and arms bowing and bending and trembling with effort and also with compressed laughter. Then he let the rescue device fly. It's an incredible thing misjudging the imaginative capacity of children to inflict a maximum amount of humiliation and financial agony on their parents. When the police finally left and Zeus had made arrangements to make payments in repairing the shattered windshield of the irate and oily tenant in 301B, and while he was ruefully poring over the lettering apprising him of damages to units will be deducted from your security deposit, Zeus could not help but stroke the tousled and slumbering blonde head of his ruthlessly heroic little boy and wonder at the future. In true, the proud and poor father felt a little bit sorry for those who were going to have to live through it.